the other thing I want to say about this was I'm so happy that I read this first. Hello and welcome to my booktube channel, Jack in the Book Stack. Today I'm coming to you from a different setup, and that's because I am doing all my trip planning right now for my trip to Greece. I leave tomorrow, and so I have my outfits planned out here, and I have even the days, I have them labeled with what day it is, so I can know if it's going to be good for the activity and the weather forecast for that day. Yeah, I'm a planner. And I'm also planning the books that I'm going to read, which I wanted to share with you. So, first and foremost, I got Lore. This is a YA Greek mythology inspired book. I've had this for the longest time, so I'm super excited to finally read this. Then I also have Ariadne. And this is one that's been pretty popular. Jennifer Saint, the author, has a couple different books where she gives a female voice to the characters in the Greek myths. And then finally, I want to reread the Song of Achilles. I've read this before, but I listened to the audiobook and it was just okay. I think I was too distracted, multitasking and doing other things while I was reading it. So I'm really excited to dedicate my focus to it. I put that in air quotes because I'm traveling, so how dedicated am I going to be? But I think it'll be okay. I think it'll be a fun experience. So all three of those books I have downloaded to my Kindle. I'm not going to take those hardcovers because I don't want the weight in my suitcase. I'm only taking a carry-on. And as you can see behind me, I have a lot of clothes and stuff that I am planning on taking. So I'm sorry, but those do take priority over the books. I think for this trip, I'm most excited about the history, which is really interesting because I'm not a history buff, but Greek mythology and Greek history has always really interested me, and particularly because it's an ancient civilization. So, really excited for that, in addition to the food. I am so excited to check out Greek food in Greece. It has to be amazing, right? I have a huge bucket list of the different foods I want to try. And I think reading those books in Greece will be a very impactful experience. So, time to go ahead and get started. Oh my gosh, look what just became available on Libby. The Illiad by Homer is available for me to check out on my Kindle. This just came out at the end of September. It is a translation by Emily Wilson, who was the first ever woman to translate the Odyssey. I don't know if she's the first woman to do the Illiad too, but I've heard that you want to read the Illiad before the Odyssey, so I am so excited. I may try to read this. It might be too dense for a travel reading experience, but I think I'm going to give it a try. How could I not? Well, I am officially in Athens, and I'm also at 82% in the Song of Achilles. I am so excited. I decided to reread this and try it in a different format. I do have to say I am getting a lot more out of it this round while dedicating myself to physically reading it rather than audiobooking it and multitasking doing other things. So the connection with the characters is a lot stronger in this one. I'm understanding their motivations a lot better, and like, I already know where it's gonna go, but I'm just more connected this time. I think with the audiobook, when I listened to it, I was engaged in the plot, but not so much in the characters and their connection, but now I'm feeling it a lot more. So I looked on GoodReads, and I think I rated this a 3-star my first read, and it's definitely around a 4 or a 5 this reread. So it's going really, really well. And I guess I could attribute part of that to just my excitement over traveling here, but I am so jet lagged. I am so tired. So we had our flight from Phoenix to New York, which was 4 hours, a 6-hour layover at JFK, and then a 9-hour flight from JFK to Athens. And I did not sleep at all. So we got here to the hotel and checked in. I took a little bit of a nap, like 2 or 3 hours. And then we just walked around a little bit, like around the hotel. We stopped at a coffee shop. My boyfriend got 2 great coffees. So he's out burning off that extra energy right now and doing more exploring, checking out a bar that was right on the corner, and I am here to crash. I don't think I'm gonna read any more tonight, because tomorrow is a full day of exploring, and it is so meaningful to see these like historical ancient sites, especially as I'm reading these books with Greek mythology. I think all the history is gonna be a lot more impactful. So I'm so excited I'm doing this, and I'm so excited to get to sleep. Also, how funny is it that we have 2 like twin beds here? You can tell I've been like sitting in mine, and I've got my Kindle right there, but how charming. Well, we are now in Mykonos, and on the ferry on the way over here, I finished the Song of Achilles. And in my initial update, I said that I was enjoying it a lot more. It ended up being a 5-star rating on my reread. And I'm really shocked at that, like how much of a difference right timing makes. So the Song of Achilles, if you didn't know, it follows Patroclus. Yeah, let's go with that. And we follow him from a young boy. He is a prince who, due to an unfortunate circumstance, is exiled. He goes to live with another king and the prince who's roughly his age as like an adopted kid. And there's a bunch of other kids. They're actually like training to be warriors. And the prince there is Achilles. They form a very close bond. They grow up together and they start falling in love. And their story is so sweet. Their connection is so sweet and so pure. And really what's interesting is you probably have heard of Achilles from Greek mythology. Hi, babe. Interrupting my update. But he is a very famous warrior from the Trojan War. And so we follow these two through the training and then ultimately as they go to war to save Helen of Troy. And that is really interesting because I didn't remember all the details of the war and the battles. And so we see a lot of characters like Odysseus and Hector and Paris, Agamemnon, Menelaus, all these names that I am familiar with, but in the context of the war. So it's really interesting. And the gods are very much involved in this story. So Achilles is the son of a goddess and a king. So he's mortal, but he has like some supreme strength. And so we follow them, and what's difficult is I don't think Achilles is a likable character because he is a soldier of war. So he loses his innocence very quickly, and he is just killing lots of people. He's very famous for how violent he is, and that's kind of tough, but really it's his pride that gets in the way and makes him unlikable. And what Patroclus does to try to save him from his pride, make him a legend. And what I really enjoyed in this read was the element of the prophecies that our characters are dealing with, because there is a prophecy that Achilles will die, so he knows he's going to have a short life, and he knows that Hector, his enemy, will perish first. So we don't want him to kill Hector. So due to that prophecy, you know that our main character is probably not going to live that long. Like, you were set up with your expectations from the get-go that this is going to be a Greek tragedy. So it does not have a happy ending, but it has a very satisfying ending. Very, very, very good. Very connected on this reread. So after I finished that, I picked up the Illiad, which honestly I don't know that much about, but I know that this new translation by Emily White just came out. I showed you I got my hold available on Libby, and right from the introduction, so I didn't know what it was about, but looking at the introduction, I see it's about the Trojan War. I see it's about Achilles and his friend Patroclus. So I am really excited because my head is still in that world. I'm still involved in their story. So I'm excited to see the source material and kind of reading the overview of it in the introduction. It's going to go through that story. I'm going to have all the same characters involved, so much longer version. It's like almost 900 pages, and it's a poem technically. It's not like a rhyming poem or a haiku, but I think I'm about 10% into it now that I've started reading on the ferry, and I'm really enjoying it. It's a lot easier language than I was expecting. And I think that's also due to the translation. It's a lot more lyrical. The introduction was saying that it's not like a word for word translation. It is meant to be, it is written for the ears. So it flows very well. It's very, very nice. So I'm excited to continue my read with that. I also started the audiobook for Lore, which I think I'm also about like 10% of the way into that. I'll tell you more about it as I get more involved. But so far it seems like every 7 years for 7 days, something like that, the Greek gods come to Earth, and whoever kills them then takes the place of that god. And so we're following a young girl named Lore, who is from one of these ancient houses. I can't remember the house that she's from. But she comes across an injured god. I think it was Athena. And the goddess says, if you bind your fate to mine, if I get better, I'll help you destroy your enemy that destroyed your family. So she makes that deal to bind her fate to the goddesses. So we'll see what happens with that. I'll learn a little bit more and hopefully be more eloquent in my summary of it. But since we're in Mykonos, we're waiting for the shuttle to go downtown and explore all the beautiful like pathways in between the houses. This is where you have like the white buildings with the blue doors. So excited. I've been eating my weight in euros and drinking my weight in Greek wine. So I'm excited to try some baklava. I hear the iced coffee is really good, so I'm gonna try that. Maybe some fish, because I imagine the seafood is really, really fresh here because we're right on the water. So a little bit more reading time this morning and then out to explore.
up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry. Oh, well, I don't wanna jinx it, baby, and twist myself at the spine. Don't wanna overthink it, baby. It's just twist your body and mine. Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're giving me wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry. Oh, but I don't wanna jinx it, baby. Let's not get ahead of my time. Oh, but I don't wanna miss you, baby. So I stand up and speak my mind. Oh. Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're chilling wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me.
Well, Santorini definitely did not go as expected because I got a cold. And I knew I would. I get sick every single time I travel. It seems like when my sleep schedule is disrupted, that's when my immune system just like shuts down and it's gonna take on all the germs from planes and crowds and everything. So unfortunately, I didn't feel up for doing like a catamaran tour or a winery tour here in Santorini. We walked a lot around the downtown area, but we also spent a lot of time just like in the hotel room, and we watched Hercules with The Rock. So that was a lot of fun, and Casper, keeping it spooky. And I also got to read another book. So I read Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. This is another Greek mythology tale about a princess of Crete and her little sister Phaedra. It does dual POV for a little bit, but it's primarily Ariadne's point of view. And she falls in love with Theseus, Prince of Athens, and makes some decisions to help him. But she ends up alone on the island of Nexus? I can't remember right now, but it's funny because I passed that island. Like, it's kind of cool to link the places in the book to the places that I'm seeing, even if I didn't step foot on the island. And there she meets the god Dionysus, the god of wine and partying, one of my favorites. So it was fun to see their story play out. So it was a good book. I was hoping that it would be more of a revenge tale, and it was not. It's another Greek tragedy, so not satisfying in the revenge way, but still really good. I think I rated it like 3.25 or 3.5, which is like, I rate my books like 3 stars. Every book starts at 3 stars, and it goes up or down depending on my enjoyment. So I was engaged in it, and I mean, I read it in like a day because I'm here sick, so it kept me entertained. So I think we're gonna walk back down to town and maybe have brunch, and then we have a flight back to Athens for one more night. That long flight with a cold, I'm not looking forward to. I don't feel like, I just feel drained, and then I'm super congested and I have a runny nose, and sometimes I sneeze or cough, which when you're traveling, like, nobody wants to be around you. So yeah, it's kind of like embarrassing, I guess. But I'm kind of bummed that I'm so low energy in such a beautiful, beautiful place. But at least I have my books.
Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're chilling wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry. Baby, you get me ice and fire. You're gentle and wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry. Oh, 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 oh,
It's been a couple days since I've been back from my Greece adventure. I am still really congested, and it sucks because my boyfriend actually got sick on the long journey home, and over the weekend when we first got home, he could not leave the couch. He couldn't even like stand up and go get water without being out of breath. And I'm like, yeah, you can see. This is one way to show you empathy for how I was feeling, huh? I mean, he took good care of me when we were in Greece and I was sick, so I say that jokingly. He tested to see if he had the sickness that shall not be named, and it was negative, which, I mean, I predicted I would get sick, so I knew it wasn't that illness. It was just my standard way of traveling, and it's contagious, so there you have it. But anyways, let's talk about books. Let's talk about the books that I read. So I am going to talk about these in the order that I enjoyed them, because I read a lot of books. I finished 4 books on this trip, which was more than I expected. But I obviously had a lot of downtime. So starting with my least favorite, that would be Lore. This is the one I was telling you was a YA fantasy about a world where every 7 years, the gods become mortals for 7 days, and in this time, they can be unalived, and then the person that unalived them is the new god that has powers. And so we follow homegirl Lore, who is the last of her bloodline, and she binds her fate to Athena to get vengeance on Wrath, who like killed her family. She teams up with a childhood friend who is a new god who took the place of an old one. He's still getting used to his powers. So this one is my least favorite. I rated it 2 stars because I just felt it was so incredibly info dump-y. And this wasn't the first time I've read Greek mythology, so I'm familiar with some of the names like Athena, Ares, Wrath. Like, I'm familiar with these characters in Greek myths, but this just threw so much at you all the time that I could not keep up. And the different dynamics in here, and like the politics of like the families that hate each other and the ones that have unalived a god and now are the new gods, it was so confusing. And perhaps that's because I was listening to the audiobook, but I was really focused on it because I was on a damn ferry with nothing to look at but water. I was focused on it. I just could not connect or follow along. So it got 2 stars because it's a unique concept that I appreciated. It wasn't a retelling of a myth. It was just influenced by the myths and the gods and the characters. So that was kind of a cool, unique, creative take. I just think if you were interested in this, maybe try physically reading it. Maybe that would help, and take your time. And maybe even tab things that you can like go back and check like how these different families interact with each other or whatever. It was kind of a tough time for me. So I did not enjoy that. It wasn't a good vacation read, that's for sure. Next up, I read another book that I never told you about because I picked this up on the journey home and I didn't film it because I felt like poo. But I read Elektra, and this is one I got the audiobook from Libby, and it's the same author as Ariadne. I was telling you how Jennifer Saint has some female-centric, not retellings, but she takes the myth and she gives like the female voice to it, and it's from the female's point of view. So this one was from 3 women's point of view. It was Clytemnestra, I cannot pronounce this, Clytemnestra, who marries Agamemnon, and then we have Princess Cassandra, who's a princess in Troy, so they're enemies, and then Elektra, who is Clytemnestra and Agamemnon's youngest daughter. So we follow their 3 perspectives, and what was very difficult in this audiobook is we do not know which perspective we're in at the start of the chapter, and so it took me a long time to get oriented with what was going on and who we were following, so I did not enjoy that. It took me a long time to get into. So this is one that it's lower in the rankings because I did not enjoy the reading journey until the end. Like the end I really enjoyed because these 3 women came together, like the plot brought them all together, and I really liked that. As far as the characters, I liked Clytemnestra, but she was really consumed by grief. And so that made her kind of shut down, and you're kind of like screaming at her a little bit as she starts to hate her husband and she wants to get vengeance against him. And I mean, I'm on her side, honey. We support women's wrongs, right? And so I really liked that perspective, even though she was consumed by her grief. The Princess of Troy, what's her face? Princess Cassandra. Her storyline was really interesting because she was a, what's the word? I can't think of the word, but she has given his life to him, a priestess of Apollo. And she has a gift bestowed upon her to have like the gift of prophecy. Well, she's like an oracle almost, but she's also cursed because nobody believes her. So everyone thinks she's like a raving lunatic because they don't believe what she says. And then when it comes true, they forget that she ever predicted it. So she's cursed with this foresight. And so her story was really interesting, and I just felt so bad for her. And then Elektra, our title character, hated her. Such a brat. And it's such a cool thing though when you have perspective, right? She had such a skewed perspective of what was going on, and even though I'm supporting her mom, Clytemnestra, in her hatred for her father, Elektra loves her father, thinks her father is like amazing, and so she hates her mom. And so the perspective is really interesting in seeing how anybody is an enemy depending on your perspective. So I like that, and I like how they all came together. It was just, I think maybe it just set me off on the wrong foot when I couldn't tell which character we were in. And then, but like I said, I'm glad I kept reading because the ending brought it all together, and I think I enjoyed it there at the end, which is kind of the opposite situation from Ariadne. And I already told you what this one is about, so I won't repeat it. But this one, I enjoyed it all the way. I was enjoying it while I was reading it, but then I felt like the ending was anticlimactic. And I think that's because, as I said, I was expecting like a vengeance story, which it was not. But I just felt kind of deflated at the end. And I don't know, it's a Greek tragedy, right? Like these things don't have happy endings. And this one I just felt like wasn't incredibly satisfying either. So that's why like it's hard to rate these two because I did not enjoy the reading process, but I was satisfied with the end. I enjoyed the reading process, but I was unsatisfied with the end. So it's like I keep flipping back and forth which one was my favorite. But yeah, those were 2 of them that I read from Jennifer Saint. And then we have, of course, the Song of Achilles, which I already told you was a 5-star rating upon my reread. And I already told you what this was about, so again, I'm not going to repeat it. But the other thing I want to say about this was I'm so happy that I read this first. And this was a great reintroduction to the Trojan War, like that time period with all the major players and the gods and the legends. I'm so happy I read this first because this was a fantastic description. So then when it came to this one, this
also follows the Trojan War because Clytemnestra is the sister of Helen, like Helen of Troy that started the whole Trojan War thing. So a lot of the events in here I knew about from here. So we're not following the same characters. I mean, Agamemnon is definitely in this one. It's just we're a different perspective. So I wanted to say that this is a great introduction, I think, because then when you're reading from all these different characters, you know the backdrop of the war and the story. So that added a whole ton of context to my readings. And then I also picked up the Illiad, which I told you. And again, so happy that I read this first, which is crazy because like this is the source material. This is retelling from here. But since this is a poem, it's like higher level overview. And so I like that I have this background. Book 1 I liked. I told you the language was really easy. Book 2 I hated. I actually skimmed a lot in that one because it was so info dumpy. It was like, here was this character from this family in this battle and then next. And it kept like giving you this overview of characters that like I don't give a shit about. I'm 16% of the way into this. So I have a long ways to go in the Illiad, and hopefully I will be able to read it before the end of October because I'm still enjoying it. But again, reading this first just gave me so much great background and appreciation to follow along with what is going on in the Illiad. So happy. So this one's not ranked, I guess. You know, if I'm going in order from least to most favorite, this one's not ranked because I haven't finished it yet. But I at least wanted to give you that update and just gush about how this gave me such a great foundation going into the other reads and understanding what's going on. So that was it. I'd say the highlight from my trip, my favorite place that I went to was Santorini. My favorite element of the trip was the food. Like I said, the food was incredible. Like, it was so good that I feel sad now because I'm like, okay, I can't cook because this is what food is supposed to taste like. This is what it can taste like. And reading these books while traveling really emphasized the experience, really made it extra moving and powerful to see these places that maybe these characters were at, or like it sets the scene, right? It really helps you visualize the story. So I really enjoyed that element of it. I love theming my reads. And again, I only read this much because I was sick. I had a lot of travel time with the flights, the layovers, the ferries, and just being sick in the hotel. So I'm not like super crazy for like reading this much on a vacation when I should be sightseeing. But that was it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me in this video. I hope you enjoyed this adventure along with me, and I will see you in the next video.